Now we will learn how you can accept an input from a graphical user interface dialog box. And also we will learn what are the obstacles in the way that will prevent you from having to do this right away. And you would have to go through wrapper classes to make this happen. So before we start, let me tell you what are the wrapper classes, okay? Wrapper classes are those classes that will allow you to cast or convert values from reference type to primitive type, or vice versa. So wrapper classes are those classes that allow you to convert your data from primitive to reference or vice versa. Now, when you take an input by using a graphical user interface dialog box, the input is a string value. So if a string value is going in a string object, no problem. But if the string value is going into an integer or a double variable, then it's a problem because you can't really do that. And then you will be like, okay, how about if I accept an integer? You can't. You can't accept something at integer level in the graphical user interface. Doesn't matter you're using a text box or you're using a dialog box, it has to come in as a string, and then you have to do the conversion or casting. Okay, so let's say we'll start out with a string. String ID equals to J option pane dot show input dialog. Enter an ID. And you have to organize your imports. Oh, second. Oh, dialog. Okay. Now I can simply display the output as ID is this. No problem. You run it. It gives you a dialog box. You enter a value, and that is displayed to the screen in the console. Now let's move on to the next step. Integer score equals to enter score. You will see right away that that line gives you an error. On the right-hand side, you see a red line showing you what? When you hover over, it tells you that you cannot convert a string to an integer. Okay, how about if I change it to a double? Same problem. You cannot do that. If you hover over, now the error changes to, you cannot convert a string to a double. So how can I solve the problem? Wrapper classes. Now, the good thing about wrapper classes is you have a wrapper class which is named after each primitive type. The only difference is that you have uppercase the first letter. So now you type here, double dot, parse double, and then you enclose your input in that. Oops. Okay. So as the values come in of type string, then using the parse double method, the value gets converted to a double type, and that fixes the problem. So we're entering an ID, entering a score, and here you go.